And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Friday, March 22nd. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by DK. We're brought to you by Sleeper. 8-game slate ahead of us. 3 late games. We got a 3-game set at 8 and then another 2 starting us off at 7 o'clock. Lots of news that we're still waiting on. Kind of a weird slate. We don't have any runaway value. Ownership is pretty flat. Lots to talk about. You can take some stands today and feel pretty good about it. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. DK, what's up? How's your week been?
Been pretty good. And this slate's looking like a fun one. It's excited to talk about it because there's so many question marks, so many moving pieces. It's gonna be a good slate for late swap for sure. This one would be tough if we had non-late swap with all these question marks.
Oh, this would have been an absolute disaster. I wish they would have done no late swap yesterday since they've cut the prize pools, I assume, for the tournament. I would have really preferred them to just do no late swap yesterday and be like, go watch college basketball. Everything's done at 7, but that wasn't how it worked out for us. Oh, well.
That would have been very nice. But yeah, I was looking outside. It's snowing outside right now in Chicago. I was thinking like, oh, I might be productive after this. Maybe go to the gym, get some groceries. No, I'm just gonna be staying inside. Maybe ordering food or something. So,
you ready to talk about this one? We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I'm ready to break it down.
Well, there's absolutely nothing we could say about this first one. It's the Boston Celtics, 14.5-point favorites in Detroit, 223 total. Jaylen Brown questionable. Al Horford questionable, Kristaps Porzingis questionable, Jason Tatum questionable. If they're all in, do you like anybody?
Yeah, if they're all in, I don't think anything stands out, but I'm assuming we're probably gonna get at least one of these guys sitting. So this one's pretty hard to talk about, as you said. I think if everyone's in, Porzingis would probably be my favorite option at 2% ownership right now, sub 8K. In a competitive game, you're probably getting close to 30 minutes from him. So I think Porzingis would be the preferred option, but yeah, if you end up getting, one or two of these guys out, then obviously the other, main guys end up playing are going to look pretty good. If you end up getting like a lot of these guys out, then we start looking to, like Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Cornette, guys like that, because it is a great spot here against the Pistons. But yeah, we don't know the news yet at 4 p.m. So this one's a little bit tough to break down.
I got to 14% of Tatum with everybody, and he's 7% owned. I don't have much to say to that. Like, clearly he should bludgeon this Pistons team that's missing 100 different dudes. But we'll know. Once we know who's in and out, then we'll know who looks better. If Tatum and Al Horford are out, then Kristaps Porzingis and Jaylen Brown are going to look really good. It's going to be whoever's left, play them a little bit more. Are you concerned with the pricing on Pritchard and Hauser? It feels like we need a lot to happen because we're talking 2 weeks ago, these guys were sub 4K together. Now, right. 5,100 for Pritchard, 5K for Hauser.
Yeah, the price points are up. I will say, the positive about Pritchard is he usually does close in a blowout. Like the last 2 or 3 blowouts, he's been closing, and this game obviously has, that blowout potential. But again, it's that price point of 5.1 where it's like, all right, well, he's going to need to play pretty well and then get all the blowout minutes too. So like if everyone's in for Boston, I don't think I can get to Pritchard or Hauser, but it depends like how many guys are out. Like if it's 2 guys are out, then, I start considering those guys. If it's only one of the main guys out, then probably not. So it just depends on like, who exactly gets rolled in for Boston.
All right, we're on the same page there. When I saw their prices today, I was just like, oh, that changes the way that they look today for what we're trying to do. And now we get to Detroit. So they're obviously in a terrible matchup. Number 1 offense in Boston, number 2 defense, 24th in pace, single-digit ownership to everybody on the Pistons right now. 9% is the most to anybody. That's Evan Fournier. We do have Troy Brown Jr., 11% optimal. That's the highest rate of anybody on the Pistons. Oh, by the way, the Pistons are without Simone Fontecchio, Taj Gibson, Quentin Grimes, Isaiah Stewart, Asar Thompson, and then didn't take long for Stanley Amude to get hurt. He broke his ankle last time out. Who do you think starts for the Pistons today? Obviously, some of these names are obvious.
Yeah, that's a good question. So obviously, K, Dern, and Ivy are going to start. I think they start Tosan again because he started last game, played 30 minutes. So I think he starts. The 5th starter, I think it could be Troy Brown. I think it could be Metu. I don't know if they want to start Fournier, but he's, I guess, another option. I don't know who that 5th starter is. Do you have a lean?
My assumption is Troy Brown.
Okay.
I think Fournier would be like a close second.
Hmm.
I'd be very surprised if it's anybody else.
Okay.
Um, they probably have some random guy that I don't even know that could get in there. Maybe they want to call in a favor for Buddy Boeheim or something like that. But my guess is one of Fournier or Troy Brown, at which point I like whoever it is, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. I think whoever gets that start is going to be a solid value. Obviously, Troy Brown's not like the best point per minute guy, but he's 3K. I do find it interesting right now. Just looking at ownership, like him and Fournier, the two highest home plays of the slate, or highest home plays on Detroit.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting that Met2 is only about 1%, and those guys are pushing 10% because Met2 is actually not bad point per minute. Played 22 minutes in their most recent game, so I think he's like a pretty sneaky GPP play right now at his ownership. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on the starting lineup. The main guys I think are a bit tougher to get to, like Cade, Duren, and Ivy. 8.2 for Cade, 7K for Duren, and 6.6 for Ivy. I mean, Cade's leading the way here with potential assists for the last 5 games. He's got the ball in his hands a ton. 53.5 passes made per game, 13.2 potential assists. But the price is up to 8.2. If you think Detroit can keep it competitive, like I'm fine taking a shot in one of those 3 guys. Probably Cade would be the preferred option, but still, I think there's better options on this slate and around their salary. So I think mainly what I'm looking to for Detroit are going to be the value plays. Keep an eye on the starting lineup. But yeah, like guys like Fournier, Met2, Troy Brown, I think are interesting plays.
I currently have 31% of Troy Brown. So he is leading the charge for me with the assumption that he's going to be in a starting lineup. But you mentioned Chimezie Metu. He's in 9% of my stuff. He's my second most owned Detroit Piston. I gave him 22 minutes, just like we saw, 3,700 power forward center. They're just out of bodies. And these guys haven't had a chance to be priced up yet by soaking up some of this new playing time. Because they'll all get up to like 4K if they have to continue to be in the rotation. They just aren't yet. Like Troy Brown's the flat min. You have to think about that on a day like today. We're talking needing, I don't know, something like 25 DK points to be a viable option at power forward. More than reasonable on a day where like he could easily play the entire fourth quarter in this matchup and we wouldn't know it. Like if this game goes according to plan, some combination of 5 guys have to finish this game off for the Pistons. The goal is probably getting someone, you want to get as many people as you can that can play regular rotations and the final rotation. Like Buddy Boeheim is going to be out there. Malachi Flynn is going to be out there if this game gets out of hand. Somebody's got to join those idiots.
Yeah, you're probably looking at like Boeheim, Flynn, Metu, Tosan Wiseman, or something like that. Is like if the game gets way out of hand as the closers.
Yeah. So, shout out to Troy Brown, looking great today if he's in the starting lineup. What a way to start it off. It doesn't get much better on the next game. That's the problem. Anybody else you want to touch on here? I have like incremental shares of Cade and 1 share of Jalen Duren, so I don't have much to say elsewhere for Detroit. And we just need that Boston news.
Nah, nothing else that I'm interested in.
The Oklahoma City Thunder are 17-point favorites in Toronto. They would be 20-point favorites or more, and more, if this game were in Oklahoma City, which is pretty scary to think about. This is a massive, massive line. 230 total. OKC's at full strength, and they are getting the ownership of a team that is a huge favorite and in a great matchup. 25 to Chet, 20 to Jalen, 20 to Giddey, 10 to Dort, 10 to Shea. I'm getting pieces of all of these guys, but do you have someone that stands out most from the Thunder?
No, I think I like all the main guys here. Over the last 5 games, the rebound numbers have been pretty solid on Chet, averaging over 10 rebounds a game, 16.4 rebound chances. And this is just like a great spot against like an undersized Toronto team. Like he should be able to have his way against Olynyk. So I understand why he's getting a lot of ownership. Him and Jalen Williams right now getting the most, both over 20%. Shea only a little over 10%. I think if you factor in ownership, he would probably be my preferred option of those top end guys. The only concern is can this Toronto team keep it competitive? Because, right, you mentioned it's like a 17-point spread or something right now, so there's definitely some risk. We do have Gary Trent Jr. on the opposite side, questionable. I don't really know if he'd move the line a ton, but I think you'd feel maybe slightly better about this game staying competitive if he plays. So I think any of those main guys, the only other guy getting ownership is Josh Giddey. He's in the mid-teens in ownership, 5.5K. I'm kind of like indifferent on him. When this team is fully healthy, the minutes are usually a bit up and down on him. If we take a look at the last 5 games, 19, 28, 22, 19, 26 minutes. He is a good point per minute guy, though. That's the thing. So you can take a shot and hope this is the game where Giddey plays 25, 26 minutes in a great spot. It's just, again, can Toronto keep it competitive? I don't think I'm going to, try taking shots on these value plays. I think there's going to be other value that opens up throughout the night. That's going to be better. So I think it's just those top 4 guys, and factoring in ownership, I think Shea's my favorite.
So I'm neutral to Shea, neutral to Giddey. I'm a little under on Chet, a little under on Jalen Williams, and then Lou Dort appears to be the guy that I'm getting to the most. Not like a crazy stand, but 2xing him. 4,200 small forward only. It's the position more than anything else. Filling small forward is the hardest spot to fill of any roster spot that we have. We have him 9% optimal, 9.5% owned. I get why it's happening. We don't have any real standout value plays to take away from stuff like that. So I understand why it's happening, but I'm in double digits of exposure to all 5 guys for Oklahoma City, and I want to be. I mean, they're going to score fantasy points in bunches in this spot.
For sure. I think the only downside with Dort is the start of the game, right? This is an early game, and we could have really good value later on. We don't know exactly what's happening with Memphis. So that's the only thing that I have an issue with Dort is locking in one of the value spots early. Is I think we could get better value opening up, but right now I think he stands out as a decent value. It just depends on, again, what exactly happens with these later games.
And then we get to Toronto, a team that is ridiculous to talk about already, but we did get, as you mentioned already, Gary Trent added to the injury report earlier today. Questionable with lower back stiffness from having to try to carry this shell of a Toronto team over the past few games. They're still without Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Chris Boucher, Jakob Poeltl, and Emmanuel Quickley. Call it 10 to 15% ownership on Bruce Brown, Grady Dick, Jonte Porter, Kelly Olynyk, and Ochai Agbaji. Little bits coming into some other guys. Porter, Agbaji, and Kelly O all got north of 10% optimal. I have scattered amounts of all of these guys, but the only 3 people that made it over 10% of my lineups were Trent, Dick, and Agbaji, which are, at least 3 of the guys that I would want to get to in this scenario. But this is a bad spot for the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, this is a really bad spot and a tough one with the spread, right? 17 points. I do expect Bruce Brown to once again start at the point with Quickley out. I think if Gary Trent Jr. gets rolled out, you're going to get more minutes for, guys like Agbaji, Brown, Dick, probably Ramsey gets a little more run as well. So those guys would benefit. I think looking at ownership right now, Jordan Nwora is only 3%. I think he's a pretty interesting play. I know it's a small sample size. I was looking since the All-Star break with Quickley, Barrett, and Trent off the court, what the numbers are looking like. He's actually leading the team in usage, 27% usage rate. It's just a matter of how many minutes he gets. But if this game does get out of hand, he is someone that probably would play in the blowout. So I think a 4.2K Jordan Nwora is pretty interesting. Ramsey is 3.6. He's been averaging around 20 minutes a game over the last 4 games. He's another guy that probably would play if this game gets out of hand. He's only about 5%. Now, if you think the game stays competitive, I think, Bruce Brown, Grady Dick, Olynyk, Agbaji would probably be the guys you'd want to look to. No one getting insane ownership. Olynyk right now getting the most. Jonte Porter was a pretty popular play last time out, and he ended up getting I think it was an illness, so only played a few minutes. Yeah. The one thing with Porter, though, is he can play some alongside Kelly Olynyk, so he's not gonna they're not gonna play the full 48 at center. He's played some alongside Olynyk, which does make me feel a little bit better about his minutes. The downside is he's only center eligible, so a little bit tougher to get to him. But I think a lot of these rotation players are in play. It just kind of depends on what you think happens with this game. Do you think it stays competitive, or do you think it's gets out of hand?
You would think it gets out of hand. I don't know what to do. So how do we want to handle this if Gary Trent gets ruled out? Because at that point, we are almost assuredly unlocking one of Jameis Ramsey or Javon Freeman-Liberty or both if it happens.
Yeah, and I think I would try to get to one of those guys. So if Gary Trent Jr. gets ruled out, who do you think that 5th starter would be then? Do you think they would go to one of those guys, Ramsey or Freeman-Liberty?
I think they have to.
Yeah.
I just they need a guard out there that can handle that sort of stuff. Like obviously it's going to be Brown, Dick, Olynyk, Agbaji. At that point in time, it's just easier to grab. Like that's where their excess is at that point. It just seems easier for one of those two guys to start, given the fact that it seems like they like Ramsey more than Freeman Liberty. I lean towards it being him. But I think both of them are viable in that scenario if Trent is gone, because I think that you're going to have to see enough minutes to make Freeman Liberty off the bench be an okay option at 3,500 point guard, shooting guard eligible. And then whoever's starting in that spot is going to look great. I mean, you got to go 26, 27 minutes at a minimum, I'm guessing. And at that point in time, their salaries are going to just create exceptional value. And I think Ramsey's actually like a decent enough per minute guy that I actually have 7% of him already at 19 minutes. So I can only imagine what happens if I give him 7 more minutes.
Yeah, I think whoever gets to start there would be a really good play. It's so gross talking about this Toronto team. Like this is definitely like your late season NBA talking about
Gary Trent out.
Oh, there it is. All right. Well, we're gonna have to get some Ramsey and Freeman Liberty in our lives.
Yeah. Assuming Ramsey starts at 20, I'm going to say, let's just say 27 minutes. That's 24 fantasy points for me at 3,600. That's 6.6x, 6.7x the salary. That's probably the best rate of anybody on today's slate at this point.
I think
he's going to go from nothing to everything.
If he starts, he's my favorite play in Toronto. But don't forget about, guys like Nwora and Porter too. I think they play just a little bit more now too. So yeah, you have to have a lot of, unfortunately, you have to have a lot of interest in this Toronto value because right now, not a ton of great value options. And with Gary Trent Jr. out, I think Toronto looks pretty good for value.
Yeah, I mean, now we're looking at filling 33 minutes. That's what I had Gary Trent in for, something like that. 30 something minutes. I have him in as the highest usage guy that was going to be really playing for Toronto. That's what we've seen with most of those other guys off the floor. I had him in for 25% usage. Even if we think that's a little high, we're filling a lot of usage and minutes now that have to get redistributed somewhere to Toronto. That's going to be a big benefit across the board for some of these guys.
I think
OKC is going to beat these dudes by 100.
Oh, for sure. I think McDaniels now becomes in play too at 3.3 because I think he's probably going to play. Close to 20 minutes.
Actually, we should take a look. I'm going to pull up their spot track page and let's get an idea of if they have any other randos that are available to be played today. I don't know the Toronto Raptors roster all that well right now. So
they got like Mohamed Guy and then Garrett Temple, but I don't think Temple will play. I'm not sure.
Wow. I didn't even think about it. So that is not how you pronounce his last name. It is exactly as funny as you would think it would be, which is interesting given their team. They must be cornering the market on funny names to say. That would be Mohamed Gay, actually.
Oh, wow. All right. I've been mispronouncing it then.
Yeah.
So you got Gay, Brown, Dick.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. Is this like the new inefficiency in the league right now? What is Masai Ujiri doing out here?
I feel like they're just trolling us.
They're going to have a full team picture next year of all 15 guys on their main roster, just clear across the board with double entendre names.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Kelly
Olynyk, Grady Dick, Jalen McDaniels, Akbaji, Nwora, Garrett Temple, Javon Freeman Liberty, Jameis Ramsey, and then they have DJ Carton, Mohamed Gay, Jonte Porter. So they have 11 active bodies. Garrett Temple never plays. DJ Carton's on a two-way.
He's out, by the way.
Basically, oh, is he? Okay, so then we have 10 active bodies. Oh, okay.
I don't think Garrett Temple's going to play either because he hasn't played since February 10th. He's like just a vet, like kind of sitting there at the end of the bench. So I think they probably play 9 guys.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, look, in a game like this, I wouldn't be surprised if Garrett Temple was like, "Yo, man, can I get out there for 12 today? Like, if I'm here, I'm working." But I wanted to know, just like, are they oddly shorthanded? Like, I would not be surprised at all to see them start Garrett Temple.
I can say
I also think he might like not play at all. I'm with you,
Mm-hmm.
but I would not be surprised if they gave him a spot start to try to like organize this team of garbage.
Yeah, I think it's possible.
Okay. So Bruce Brown now he was 12% owned before. Certainly looks better than he did 5 minutes ago. Grady Dick looks at least incrementally better than he did 5 minutes ago. Ramsey, by default, is way better than he was and could be the highest owned guy on the slate if he starts. McDaniels has become sneaky. Freeman Liberty is sneaky or awesome if he starts. I'd say Jonte Porter is like incrementally better. Wara incrementally better. Olynyk is probably about the same.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's going to take them.
Trent being out really affects him too much.
It would take the game being really competitive for him to get to like a minute, like to increase minutes in any major way. It's not like he's going to play 36 in the first 3 quarters or something in a blowout.
Right.
Akbaji is probably pretty similar. Maybe picks up an extra minute, something like that. And I don't think Mohamed Gay is going to be anything in this spot, just considering he's another center. So, yeah. The biggest underdog on today's slate has just become like the sneaky, trickiest spot to get to. Oh, by the way, it locks at 7. So whatever decisions you make are set in stone.
Yeah, I think ownership will definitely play a role.
Jason Tatum out.
Okay. Are we getting
Jaylen Brown available? Porzingis available. Al Horford out. So Tatum, Horford out. Brown, Porzingis in. Hauser in.
Okay.
So bump Derek White, bump Jaylen Brown, bump Kristaps Porzingis.
Yes. And then I'm assuming that starting lineup will be you just get Pritchard and Hauser in the starting lineup with those 3, probably. Because Drew's already out. Or do you think?
I think they could very easily start Porzingis and one of the bigs.
Yeah, because they did that before.
Yeah, or Tillman. Honestly, I mean, they've been playing Tillman a little bit more than Cornette as of late, and like Detroit's going double bigs.
That's true. Yeah.
So, I mean, like they have options. Whatever option they choose is still going to be a better option whenever Detroit's trotting out there today. I wouldn't be surprised. I would probably lean more towards double bigs than Pritchard and Hauser.
Okay.
But it could also just as easily be Pritchard and Hauser.
Yeah. Well,
now we need a lineup.
I like those main guys a lot now with Tatum and Horford out. I think Brown, Porzingis, and White are 3 really good options kind of in the mid-range.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, but we're talking pretty sizable bumps. Well, we are 23 minutes in. Slate just changed pretty dramatically, and we've only talked about the first 2 games. Fun stuff. Great start. All right, guys, hit that like button to the 1,300 people that are in the door right now. Appreciate seeing you guys. Schedule is easy. NBA Live before lock coming up next. Got to hit the like button if you want to see it, or that screen will go black. I will run that gimmick into the ground. I promise you that. And then playback.tv/Stokastic. We're multi-streaming there right now. You could watch if you want. But at 7, we are exclusive to Playback. We're going to watch games on League Pass together. If you have League Pass, join us. You get to see the games. Same stream, no latency. We'll talk bets, we'll talk news, late swaps, whatever you want to get into, we'll get into it. Maybe have some giveaways. Who knows what's going to pop up? Also, and this is the big piece of all of this, you might be able to grab a VIP pass. We have 40 of them to give out. So if you don't have League Pass, cross your fingers. Hope you get a VIP pass. You could watch basketball along with us, even if you don't have League Pass. Also, use our avatar. Go to stokastic.com/avatar. Grab that logo. Use it on DraftKings, FanDuel, Owner's Box, Yahoo. Finish in the top 3 of a contest with 5,000 or more entries. You get 1 month of whatever you're looking for at Stokastic. Can't ask for a deal better than that. All you have to do is tweet your result at StokasticHOF. Show us the lineup. Show us the contest. We want to show it off to the world, and we want to reward you for it. It's that easy. Costs you absolutely nothing to do so. Link should be in chat as well. Oh, God, these games. All right. Gets a little bit easier here. New Orleans Pelicans are 3-point underdogs in Miami. We have a 209.5 total here. Brandon Ingram is out, got injured last night. 17% ownership coming into CJ McCollum, 28 to Trey Murphy. And then single digits to everybody else, including just 8 to Zion. Murphy and CJ are both 15% optimal. Where are you going here for the Pels now that Brandon Ingram's going to be out?
Yeah, so Ingram being out definitely makes this team look better. Looking at the numbers with Ingram off the court, you got Zion sitting at about a 34% usage rate and 35% assist percentage. So I think he gets like the biggest bump with Ingram off the court. CJ sitting at 27% usage and a 25% assist percentage. I will say, looking at the ownership, I think Trey Murphy's going a bit over-owned. He does look better, obviously, with Ingram out. But I don't know if he should be one of the higher owned plays of the slate right now. So I think I'm going to be underweight to Trey Murphy currently at 28%. I think the easiest guy to get to is probably CJ at 6.5. Yeah. You should get, low to mid 30s mids from him. So 6.5K reasonable price point. He's probably my preferred option. I think Herb Jones is playable at 5K. He's not getting a ton of love. He looks a little bit better. Who do you think they're going to start with Ingram out? Do you think they go like Najee Marshall? Do you think they go like Hawkins? What are you thinking?
That's a good question. Najee Marshall makes the most sense just naturally. Mm-hmm. I'd be surprised if it's Alvarado, but I don't think it'd be crazy. They could just shift everybody if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have CJ for sure. We're going to have Herb for sure. Joval, Zion. Honestly, they're probably going to go CJ, Herb, Trey Murphy, Zion, and Joval, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to deviate there. At which point, I don't find it all that interesting other than I'm with you. Like, it's CJ for me. I don't like the ownership on Trey Murphy. I have 7%. He's 28% owned. Like, CJ is the guy that I think is the very clearly easiest dude to get.
Yeah. And then for some reason I thought, I don't know. For some reason I thought there had to be one more starter. I don't know why I was thinking it had to be Marshall or someone else. But yeah, the only thing to mention too is Larry Nance minutes, right? They're kind of up and down. But he's 4.3K. He's another viable contrarian play. I don't really know if I'm going to get to anyone else. Alvarado, 2%. Don't really know if it's necessary. So, yeah, for some reason I already had it locked in my mind that that they needed a fifth starter. But yeah, it's going to be Murphy, Jones, CJ, Zion, JV.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it's not.
Yeah.
Unless they just want to get like a different guard out there and let CJ be more of a scorer, but I don't really expect it. I think if you got CJ and Zion out on the floor, you're probably not looking for much more. You're not looking for the ball to be in anybody else's hands.
Right.
So yeah, I thought I was going to get way more Zion today, but he's up to 8,800 now, and even with that giant rate boost, he's playing great. I mean, it's exciting to see, but this isn't exactly a great matchup either. 27th ranked pace for Miami, good defense, like not the best spot.
I think if this is like any other matchup, I'd be much higher on Zion, but since it's against Miami and a low total at this price, it's a little bit tougher to prioritize him.
Now on the Miami side, we are not really waiting on anything. Bam's available, Jovic is available, Caleb Martin's probable. Highest owned guy for Miami is 8% to Jimmy Butler. You get a little bit more on FanDuel, but a reminder, there's only 5 games on FanDuel, so we're talking about 2 completely different slates. I got a little bit of basically unowned Terry Rozier at 7,200. I don't love it, but he's a little over a fantasy point per minute guy. He's going to play 30 plus minutes. All it takes is just like having the right hot shooting day, I guess. New Orleans will allow you to get up threes, that's for sure, but apparently no one's allowed to make them, even though they do. And then I have 7% of Butler. I don't really have anything else for Miami. This is a pretty unappealing game. Second lowest total on today's slate. Both teams lean slow. Both teams lean defense. Are you getting to Miami?
No, I think if I had to play someone, it would be Jimmy Butler. So agree with the field right now. He's about 8% owned.
Yeah.
The numbers have been good on Jimmy since returning from break. Assist numbers have been solid as well. So like he's playable at 8.2. He's had some pop-off games recently. He had a 50 fantasy point game there against Cleveland. But I think there's other guys in that price range I would rather get to. Bam's priced up at 8.9. I think that's really hard to go there. You mentioned Rozier at 7.2. Like he's not out of play, but it's hard to go to him at that price point. Some of these like value plays, like guys like Martin, Jaquez are priced up from when Miami was a bit shorthanded a few games ago. So it's hard to go there. Jovic had a good game last time, but again, that was without Bam, and he also played some at the 5. So I don't think we can expect 33 minutes like he got last time out. So yeah, I think it just maybe a little bit interesting Jimmy Butler, and that's it.
All righty. I like it. I have nothing else to add. Cleveland Cavaliers, 7-point dogs in Minnesota, 207 total. This is the lowest total on today's slate. Cleveland continues to be without lots of people. No Mitchell, Mobley, Strus, and Wade. 15% ownership to Isaac Okoro, 10% ownership to George Niang, and about 10 to Karis LeVert. I don't think that anybody immediately jumps out. This could look a bit better for Cleveland if news breaks for Minnesota in a different way. Minnesota's the number 1 defense. That is not the same defensive ranking they're going to have if Rudy Gobert doesn't play. So you get a better matchup if Cleveland gets a non-Rudy Gobert Minnesota team. What stands out to you from Cleveland? Because we've kind of seen this rotation now for a bit.
Yeah, and they ran last game, they ran a very tight rotation too. And the game didn't go to overtime, but you saw 38 minutes for Okoro, 40 for Garland, 38 for Allen, 35 for Niang, 36 for LeVert. So they played their starting 5 a ton. The only guy that got decent minutes on the bench was Sam Merrill. Looking at ownership, so you got Okoro and LeVert, the 2 high zone plays right now. I do find it interesting that LeVert is like 3x the ownership of Darius Garland. Now, Garland, I've been playing a lot recently, but losing a lot of money with him, but still gets an assist bump, usage bump with Donovan Mitchell off the court. And he should play, mid to high 30s minutes. So I do have some interest in Darius Garland as contrarian play. Jarrett Allen played big minutes last time out, 20 rebounds. So 8.4K makes him viable. He would look better too if, Gobert / Naz Reid get rolled out, because then like Allen should just be able to feast on the glass against like small ball or Luka Garza. So yeah. I think those 2 are interesting contrarian plays. Okoro getting the most ownership right now. Maybe going a bit overowned, but again, the minutes are solid, 30 plus minutes in each of the last 5 games. Niang is 4.6K. He's played 33 and 35 minutes over the last couple of games. I think he's viable as contrarian play. He's about 10% owned. So any of the main guys I think are playable, but I think Garland and Allen would be my favorite options looking at ownership.
So right now I have right around the field on Okoro, right around the field on Niang. I'm actually light on Karis LeVert, which kind of scares me just because he's been playing on a completely different level lately, but he's up to 7,400. So, I see it. Our projections, or at least our optimal rate, sees it a little bit differently. We have them as properly owned. It's Okoro and Niang that are the guys that are showing up with some negative leverage. Allen's just the tough one because of that $8,400 price tag. I want to get there if this breaks the right way against Minnesota, but we have a lot of center talent out there today, and I just don't know how much I'm going to squeeze out, but I think he's live to smash if this breaks the right way.
Yeah, like if you get like Slow-Mo or McDaniels on him, like he should be able to feast. So we'll talk about Minnesota in a sec, but like Jared Allen's, and he's going to play big minutes no matter what too. So he has a pretty high floor and, does have a ceiling if things break his way with some of the Minnesota news.
Speaking of Minnesota, Q tag on Anthony Edwards, Q tag Naz Reid, Q tag Rudy Gobert. Gobert 10% owned, Anthony Edwards 6. I've got 17 of Edwards, shooting guard, small forward, 9,700, 35% usage rate with no Towns around. Not the same Cleveland defense that you're used to. I like him as a sort of contrarian pay up option, and I don't mind having Gobert if he is in. What do you see for Minnesota, and if everybody's in, obviously?
Yeah, if everyone's in, I think I agree with you. Ant would probably be my favorite option. No currently Towns. Nice usage bump over the last 5 games, leading the team in potential assists as well. 10.6 potential assists a game. So this number's been solid. I think he's a pretty good contrarian spend up, not getting a ton of love right now, and kind of just doing everything for the team, playing big minutes. Gobert, I think, would be playable, assuming he's in and no sort of restriction. 7.6K would be another like reasonable center play. But a lot of these other guys are kind of priced up from when Minnesota's been shorthanded. So if they are fully healthy, I think it would be tough to get to guys like Conley, McDaniels, NAW. Things start getting interesting if one or both of the bigs end up getting ruled out, though.
Yeah, who do you like? I think I know the answer to the question, but who do you like more, Rudy Gobert or Naz Reid if Rudy Gobert is out?
Naz Reid.
Okay. Yeah. Power forward, $300 cheaper helps quite a bit.
Yeah, and he's played a few of the games that Gobert missed. Like he's played huge minutes. He played 42 minutes against the Lakers, 35 against the Jazz in a blowout. So, like if Gobert gets ruled out, Nas is in. Not be surprised if he plays, 35 plus minutes, and he is a good point per minute guy. So I would be pretty high on Nas, even though it's not necessarily the best spot going up against Jared Allen on the opposite side.
I'm curious to see what happens here because we've had so little Gobert lately, missing 4 out of the last 5 that I don't have a great feel there. I assume Naz Reid's playing, but I also would have assumed that we've heard that he's out of the concussion protocol at this point too. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. Edwards, I just assume is always playing. That dude I don't know what he's made out of, but it doesn't seem like human parts.
Yeah, if he's questionable or like ever leaves the game, I always give it like a 90% chance that he's coming back or that he's going to play. Yeah. Would you be interested in Garza at 4.1 if both the bigs are out?
Yeah, I think you have to. Although it does become a little scary. 22 minutes last time out isn't exact. Like you're hoping for more than that in that scenario, especially as we're starting to clean up a little bit of additional value. I mean, I would probably project him around 23, I'm guessing, just like off the top of my head. You said he's 41.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, assuming we get that, let's just say we get that news at 7:30. I assume there's going to be enough to move around that he becomes an interesting value option.
Yeah. I don't know if you would start because they started small ball last time out. I think I'd probably do that again. Slow-mo did get some early foul trouble too. So Garza might have picked up a couple extra minutes. He did check in for him last game. But
do you remember who that was against?
Jokic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went to Garza on Allen. Like, I don't mind. Like, you definitely go small on Jokic because you already guard Jokic small anyway. Most teams are putting someone that isn't the center on Nikola Jokic because Jokic will cook just about every center that exists. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went to Garza on someone like Jared Allen, who certainly doesn't have the same skill set as Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, like Allen's more traditional bigs. I think they could get away with throwing Garza out there. Where if they put him on Jokic a ton, like he would just get destroyed.
Right. Yeah, if he's not starting, then we're gonna have a real hard time giving him enough minutes to like really care at that point.
Yep.
All right, 4 games up. We've got a couple interesting spots to talk about as we move forward, but we got to talk about Sleeper first, sponsor of this show. You guys see the banner at the top of the screen. I talk about it a lot. It's the best deposit deal you're going to find. They will match up to $500. You got to click the link in the description or the one that pops up in chat to do so. But to get up to $500 is just a crazy deposit bonus. Lock that down, get it, play through it as quickly as you can, because free money is the best money that you could ever acquire. And if you're going to be playing on pick'em sites anyway, work through it there. They're handing out free squares constantly. I know they have another one tonight. I believe it's LeBron James. Take advantage, helps keep your costs down. They've got dynamic payouts, so you get multipliers on either side. That allows you to take some more unique lines, significantly more plays available to you at Sleeper because of that. Some other sites don't have the ability to do that because there's even action on both sides. Now you can expand your portfolio a little bit. You could use Odds Shopper as well if you want to. $14.99 a week. Going to have Sleeper plays all over the place. Use the Odds Shopper table to take a market-based approach to beating Sleeper, but take advantage of that deposit offer. You don't want to sleep on these spots. The moment they go away, they're never coming back like this. And up to $500 is fantastic. So click the link in the description and sign up for Sleeper. The Memphis Grizzlies are a pain in the ass. They're also 6-point underdogs in San Antonio. We have a 216 total. Grizzlies have a doubtful tag on Desmond Bane, questionable tag on John Conchar, questionable tag on Jake LaRavia, questionable tag on Scottie Pippen Jr., and a doubtful tag on Vince Williams. Tons of ownership coming in because they have a fantastic matchup against the Spurs, but we don't really know who's playing, and who's playing greatly changes everything. 30% ownership to Conchar, 20 to GG Jackson, 10 to 15 on LaRavia, Triple J, Aldama, and Pippen. Conchar happens to be out. We're probably jamming Jordan Goodwin if he starts. He's 4K now. There's not much we could say to do here other than I think just about everybody that's playing for Memphis is available to you other than unless everybody's out, I won't get to DeJean Giraud and Trey Jemison, but Jackson, Laravia, Conchar, Goodwin, Aldama, Pippen, they all look solid in this spot.
Yeah, this team, you need some Memphis exposure. It just depends on who exactly is in. Since returning from All-Star break, Gigi Jackson has a nice usage, 25% usage rate. He's been playing big minutes too. Over the last few games, he's been starting 35, 44 in overtime, 35 minutes. So the minutes have been solid. And what I will say about GG too is a lot of the times like he is blowout proof, even if the game does get out of hand. Like he came back in and closed that game with the end of the bench guys last time out. So I think GG stands as a pretty good play here in the mid range, 6.2K. Ownership is there, but I agree with it. Conchar maybe going a little bit overowned, but again, I need to see who exactly is in. Like, is Scottie Pippen starting at the point? Is Jordan Goodwin in? Is he even active? We don't know. I think whoever starts at the point guard position for Memphis is going to be a pretty good play, whether it be Pippen, whether it be Goodwin. Goodwin's 4K, Pippen's 5.2. Jaren Jackson is always someone I like playing at low ownership, and he's not getting a ton of love right now, just over 10%. No Desmond Bane. I'm pretty high on him as a GPP play. And then, as you mentioned, like guys like Drew and Jemison, I'm probably not going to get to unless they're very shorthanded. So got to keep an eye on the news from Memphis, but I think you need some exposure. Aldama, also another reasonable play in the mid range. He had a huge game last time out. And then Laravia's 4.72, another reasonable value play. He's been playing big minutes. Nice usage on him since returning from break as well. So I think you got to have a lot of interest in Memphis. Just depends on who exactly is in and what that starting lineup is.
I've got 20% of Laravia, 20% of Triple J. So we're seeing that one the same way. I like getting a Triple J when Bane's not around.
Yep.
Neutral on Pippen, neutral on Aldama. I'm lighter on Conchar, same way that you talked about it there. The shooting guard small forward eligibility for Conchar looked really good. I think that ownership starts to come down. As we start to free up value, his flexibility isn't as interesting. Don't get me wrong, great play, 26% optimal. Favorite play in the boom bust tool for sure. But if he's not in, I assume this would be the spot where they dust off Jordan Goodwin. Like if they're saving him for anything, they seem to be getting light on bodies. If we start losing some of those Q tags, that'd be interesting. If Scottie Pippen starts, it just kind of stinks that he's 5,200, but great per minute, dude. Happy to get there if it's available, but we're going to need this news. This is going to be a premier spot to swap to, assuming we get all of this stuff after 7 o'clock.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. This being like a good late swap slate is this Memphis stuff. Some of the stuff we'll talk about later. Like just got to monitor the news and update depending on who exactly is in and what that lineup is. I think with Goodwin, I would probably only play him if he starts because he doesn't have many games available left that he can play. And if he doesn't start, I'd be pretty worried about him getting a DNP. So I would only play Goodwin, I think, if he starts.
When's the last time he's missed the past couple of games, correct?
Yeah, he's been out the last 2 or 3 games. The last game he played was 3-13, so a little over a week ago. I think he came off the bench in that game too.
So that's where I was leading this. I wish that the basketball reference game log had that designation. Oh, it does. Yeah, he did come off the bench, which is scary. But his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the last 5 times he's been available, other than this most recent game, they were starts. So I will have a hard time wanting to get to him if he's not starting because I just won't trust it.
Yeah, I'm not going to take that. I mean, he is cheap enough where even if he doesn't start, he actually plays, like he could be a solid value. I just don't know if I want to risk taking a 0.
Well, either way, you got to pay attention to it. Keep your eyes on live before lock for sure. Maybe we get the news then. Otherwise, make sure you're around for some swaps for Memphis because this could be creating even more value than we already have. San Antonio side's easy to talk about. 10% ownership to Vassell, Trey Jones, and Wemby. Way more on the FanDuel side for obvious reasons. Wemby and Vassell, the only guys that got over 10% optimal. I got to 18% Vassell, and I'm going straight back to Wemby. Not as much competition at the top end. A lot of the best per minute dudes aren't available today. So I have 27% Wemby. You should smash Memphis.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think Wembanyama, once again, my favorite play in the Spurs. Since returning from break, he's got a 30% usage, 1.74 fantasy point per minute player. Should play his normal low 30s minutes. The only downside is he's only center eligible and the price point is up, but still the ceiling is so high in Wembanyama. We've seen a ton of 70 fantasy point games from him recently. So I think he's probably my favorite option. Devin Vassell playing big minutes, 7.3K, second on the team in usage. I think he's a reasonable play there in the mid range. And then guys like, Trey Jones, Sohan, and Keldon Johnson, I think are playable, all in like the 5 to 10% ownership range. No real strong takes in those guys, but they're all reasonable filler plays. I'm not going to prioritize them, but if you land on one of those guys as a last piece filler play, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, I have a couple shares of Sohan, a couple shares of Keldon Johnson, a couple shares of Trey Jones, but it's Wemby and Vassell for me. And if I'm going to get anybody for San Antonio, please give me the 2 best players on San Antonio.
Yes. The minutes have been up on Trey Jones too. Just something to note. Like he's played 30 plus minutes now each of the last 5 games, 32, 32, 33, 36, and 33. And the assist number has been good on him too. So maybe I'm a little bit higher on Jones than I originally thought, just because the minutes have been very solid for him.
I'm going to give him an extra minute. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yep.
I didn't have it, but I think that matters. The price tag works. And this is a spot where you should expect Trey Jones to play his full allotment of minutes, whatever that ends up being a 5 or 6 point favorite against Memphis. If he doesn't get it because they blow out Memphis, then touche life. But this seems like a spot where you're going to get the full run of a starter.
Yeah, you would think this game would stay competitive. 2 bad teams going up against each other.
Yeah. The Indiana Pacers are 5-point underdogs in Oakland, San Francisco. They're in San Francisco now, right?
Yes.
Yep.
I think. Yeah.
239 total, highest total on today's slate. Now, for the Pacers, the interesting piece of this game is that everybody's just available except for potentially Obi Toppin, who's questionable. Last time out, allegedly, they just played Isaiah Jackson because he's from Detroit, which this isn't middle school. What are we doing here? Anyway, he smashed. You would think by taking advantage of that opportunity, a coach would want to play that person for stepping into that role. And yet now we're sitting here staring at a $3,700 power forward center, Jalen Smith, who people get to regularly when he's going to play. What the hell do we do with these guys today?
That's wild. I didn't even know that was the reason. I was reading that. Like, that is the reason that Isaiah Jackson played, was because it was in Detroit and they had a lot of like friends and family. That is like, yeah. Like, this is not, like, as you said, this is not middle school. This is NBA. Like, that's pretty wild that they dusted off Jackson for that reason. I think that Jalen Smith is, my guess is he goes back to the backup 5. That's kind of what I read too. Is it looks like that was just like a one-time thing. Now, if Obi Toppin gets ruled out, then I think both plays, and then I think Jalen Smith would play some at the 4. So we'll keep an eye on that news. But yeah, 3.7K right now for Jalen Smith is always someone I like getting to as a kind of contrarian value play, because he is a good point per minute player. And Turner is somewhat foul prone, but there is, I guess, some DNP risk since Jackson played last game. But again, I think they go back to Jalen Smith as the backup 5. Since returning from All-Star break, TJ McConnell actually leads the team in usage, which is pretty wild. 4.6K. He's playing low 20s minutes, good point per minute. I think he's a fine play. Unfortunately, I am higher on Halliburton in the field. He's been struggling, but he should play low to mid 30s minutes in this game. This is, I believe, the highest total game on the slate as well. So I do kind of like Halliburton as contrarian play. Mid 40s fantasy points in 4 of the last 5 games. And again, up tempo game here. Looking at the rest of the roster, Aaron Naismith should play 30 plus minutes. He's got nice eligibility, a little over 10%. I think he's a fine filler play. Turner's pretty low owned. Siakam's about 10%. I think Siakam's another reasonable play there in the mid range. But yeah, hopefully if you do end up taking a shot on Jalen Smith, you don't get screwed with the DNP. But I'm leaning towards them going back to him as the backup 5.
I have 40% right now.
That's scary.
So I actually love it right now, because that's just locking me into a lot more swaps in a 10 o'clock game. So this just is creating a lot of flexibility for me. I'll be way more nervous at 9:30 if Obi Toppin gets ruled in. Then if I'm sitting there with 40, that's when I start like tugging the collar a little bit, seeing that ownership. But I like the ability for it to just keep me open in the future. If that was a 7 o'clock game, I would not have the same sort of feels in my tummy. But in this spot, love it. I'm a little bit over on Aaron Nesmith, Miles Turner, and TJ McConnell, but I'm getting to a lot of Indiana just in general. I have everybody except for Shepard and McDermott in at least a lineup.
Yeah, I mean, nice total in this game, up tempo. So fine getting to a lot of those main rotation players for Indiana.
For the Warriors, not a lot going on. They're 10% ownership to Curry, 11 to the highest owned guy on DraftKings for the Warriors, Trace Jackson Davis, around 10 for Draymond Green. But the biggest stand that I'm getting to right now is that I have 35% of Steph Curry. I love him as a pay up option today. Amazing matchup. You can't ask for much more. Should be an absolute shootout based on the way that these teams play. And if I'm going to get into a shootout, I'm going to take that gunslinger.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I'm a little bit surprised he's not getting more love, this price point plus the matchup. Like, I love targeting players against the Pacers. Price is down on Steph. He got limited minutes last game, but I'm not worried about it. That game was a blowout. He should play as normal, like close to probably, low to mid 30s minutes. So I think Steph Curry stands out as a pretty good play right now at his ownership, just above 10%. Or just around 10%. Jackson Davis, the highest owned guy in Golden State. I think he's going a bit over owned, 5K, only center eligible. I think I'd rather get to Draymond for a bit more. 6.5K does have the power forward eligibility. As long as he avoids foul trouble, you're probably getting low 30s minutes from Draymond Green. I think Wiggins is reasonable at 5.2. No real strong takes there. Don't really know if I'm going to get to like Clay or CP3 or Podziemski. So I think the main two guys I'm looking to for Golden State would be Steph at 8.6 and Draymond at 6.5.
I had a ton of Steph last time out. Didn't work out for me the way that I wanted it to. I had an under on Andrew Wiggins. That certainly didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. So hopefully Steph can redeem me. I never get to Steph. Like, he's probably my least owned star player that exists in the league over the past 5 years. So I'm hoping that he pays me off here, but just let it sail, brother. 239 total, crappy Pacers defense, fast-paced game. What's not to like here, man? I hope he rains threes. I wish I could I should probably ladder his threes too. It'll be a fun bet.
I feel like this is like the lowest price we've seen on Steph in like a long time at 8.6. He's always in like the mid 9K range. I feel like now he's 8.6. So yeah, I'm just surprised the field's not getting to him more.
Glad they aren't. Don't play him, everybody. Clippers are 13.5-point favorites in Portland. 216 total. 10% ownership to Zubats coming in. Q-tag Terrence Mann, Q-tag Norm Powell. Not a lot of priorities here for the Clippers. Decent spot against Portland because they're not very good, but these guys are all sort of priced where they should be. Zubats got the 10% optimal. Everything else is single digits. I'll take any one of their big four, but this is a spot where I do not have a lot of exposure.
Yeah, you could have value too for the Clippers, weighing the stats of Powell and Mann. Like, I think Amir Coffey at 3.7 would be a decent value play. Played 31 minutes in their most recent game. I probably wouldn't play Bones Highland if both those guys are out. He got benched last time out, and they actually went to Brandon Boston as kind of the backup guard. So I wouldn't, even take the shot there, even if Powell and Mann are both out. But yeah, when the big three are healthy, I usually prefer whoever's lowest owned if I'm going to pick one. And the ownership's all pretty similar on them right now. 5% to Harden and George, 7% to Kawhi. So no real strong takes there. Zubac is 5.4. The Blazers usually do have a traditional center out there at all times, whether it be Ayton or Duop Reith. So I think you're probably getting mid-high 20s minutes from Zubac. He's probably the easiest guy to get to. But yeah, this team's fully healthy. It's tough to prioritize them. If you do end up getting guys like Mann and Powell out, then I think you could have some value with guy. Amir Coffey would probably be the first guy I would look to in that scenario.
So Portland has 20% ownership coming into Scoot, 10 to Chris Murray, 10 to Simons, minimal elsewhere. I had pretty big stands on these guys earlier today, and I still do. 30% of Simons, 8% of Ayton, who is questionable, by the way. 26% of Chris Murray. That'll probably go away now that we freed up a lot of value. That Toronto value is going to really change up the game. And then I'm neutral on Scoot. But the big question here is, does DeAndre Ayton play? Because if he does not, Duop Reith is 3,500 and becomes Jam City when he, I would imagine, inevitably starts.
Yeah, so this is a late swap here with Ayton questionable. Now, usually a midday downgrade, I lean towards that player being out. So if DeAndre Ayton does get ruled out, I'm assuming that Duop Reith will get the start. He's 3.5K, would probably be the best value on the slate. So he could be a really, really good value there again if Ayton gets rolled out. And then I think you would get Jabari Walker getting a boost as well. I think he could play some 5. This team, they just don't want to play Moses Brown like any minutes. So
No.
Jabari Walker over the last 2 games, 33 and 23 minutes, reasonable price point, does have power forward eligibility. He has played some of the five, so I think he would look better too. And then I think like everyone else will look a little bit better too, because Ayton's been leading the team in usage recently. So guys like Simons, Banton, you mentioned Scoot. Scoot's playing big minutes too. He came back in a blowout last time out, played 35 minutes, 5.4K. The only downside of Scoot is, and it's been a headache with me rostering him recently, is he's very foul prone. As a guard. So you always have to factor that in. Ban's still playing good minutes, even coming off the bench, played 33 and 28 off the bench last couple of games. I think he's a pretty interesting contrarian player now, just about 1%. Like, is Scoot really that much better of a play than Delano Banton? I don't know if it should be like 20-1 right now. So I think Banton is a reasonable pivot off of a chalky Scoot Henderson. But yeah, this is one you have to keep a close eye on the news, because we could have some really good value for Portland if Ayton gets ruled out.
Keep your eyes peeled for it. I'm really starting to like how some of this late exposure is shaking out for me. Should keep me, like, I hope we don't get any news until after lock. I'd like to really be able to use this to my advantage. Let's close it out. Philadelphia 76ers. This is an easy one to talk about. 7-point dogs in LA, taking on the Lakers. 225 total. If you're here and you haven't hit the like button yet, please do so. Did I miss a super chat at some point? Oh, I did. I missed it at the beginning, and I do want to mention it. Chris Williams hit us with the super chat right out of the gate, and I forgot to say it. He said, shout out Josh. Missed the show earlier, but saw the replay. And your Chandre comment made me laugh so hard I cried at work. You're welcome. You're welcome. That made me happy as well. And then we got the member message from 1, 2, or 12, depending on how you want to read it. But there is a space in between those numbers, so we'll go with 1, 2. Carlisle buying into the Sean V hometown narrative. Yeah, you love to see coaches just playing guys because they're playing close to home. That's insane. Isaiah Jackson, it's not like he's a rookie or retiring. He's been in the league. He's just a guy. You're going to do that every time you go to like some guy's city? Anyway, Sixers, 10% ownership to Tyrese Maxey, 10% ownership to Kyle Lowry, and a Q tag still on Tobias Harris, who's missed the last 3. I got 20% of Maxey. I have 13% of Kyle Lowry. I don't want it, but fine for late swaps. Do you like Philly today?
Yeah, so you got Tobias with a question mark. I think he plays. He did go through practice on Thursday. If he ends up getting ruled out, you should get Batum in the starting lineup. 4K would be a viable option. But right now, my lean is that Tobias Harris is in. I believe Chandre said he did not like Maxey, so this means we should be going all in on Maxey. Is that right?
That's the way that I remember it, yes. He's going to get locked down by the Lakers. Yeah. So this is going to be the worst defensive performance of LA.
So, yeah, Maxey obviously gets a usage bump with Embiid off the court. 8.7K. I mean, he's basically playing competitive games close to 40 minutes. So I think he's a pretty good play right now at sub 10% ownership. The center position, it's kind of a headache with Bamba and Paul Reed. A lot of the times Paul Reed is closing. If you want to take a shot in him in tournaments, that's fine to see. He is a good point per minute player, not getting a ton of love. Lowry, the only other guy really getting any ownership at about 10%. He's at a cheap enough price point where I think he's fine. Minutes been a little bit up and down. I think you're going to expect mid to high 20s minutes from him. But I think Maxey definitely the guy I like the best for Philly.
If Harris is out, are we doing the same thing we normally do? Little bump to Oubre and then bump Nick Batum?
Yeah, I think you bump up Batum's minutes and then you give Oubre a bit more usage. I think Oubre would be a decent play there in the mid-range at 6.5. He's played 34, 39, and 35 minutes over the last 3 games. He would probably be the number 2 on offense behind Maxey.
And then the Lakers. We've got a $10,300 price tag on AD, 10-2 on LeBron, who has been playing incredibly well lately, 1.53 fantasy points per minute over the past month. I got 12% of AD. I think if you're playing anybody here, it's AD and LeBron almost exclusively. Maybe D'Lo can pop into a lineup here or there, but do you like anything here? How do you feel about AD? How does he look to you in relationship to like some of the other pay up options?
I think there's probably other spend ups I like a little bit more, but I mean, it is a really good spot for AD. Should be able to have his way against like Bamba, Paul Reed. So, not insane ownership going to him, reasonable price point. I think he's a solid option. I do think it's kind of hard to get to anyone else besides the top end guys like D'Lo and Reeves, both above 7K. Taurean Prince is out, but I don't really know if that does a ton. I think probably like Max Christie picks up some of those minutes at 3.3. But I think there's just better value right now with, the Toronto guys and possibly with Memphis. So Christie would maybe be like a late slate play or something like that. So LeBron, AD, the two guys I'm really looking to, with probably AD being the easiest guy to get to. Again, it is nice he has power forward eligibility.
Yeah, I thought I would get a little bit more here, but I only have 12%. But I guess that's what happens when you're like way over on Wemby, way over on, Steph, way over on Tyrese Maxey, way over on Anthony Edwards. I was way over on Jason Tatum. Like I was just getting everybody else at that point. So would I mind getting more AD? No. I think LeBron's a bit tougher to get to, but he is also trying to save their season. So, never underestimate what he's going to try to do down the stretch just to make sure that they could actually make the playoffs.
Yeah, and LeBron not getting a ton of love. So, like, if you land on any LeBron, only about 6%, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah, I have 3%. Anything that I get to in that 10%, under 10% range, I'll be cool with. But we're here, top of the hour, 8 games up, 8 games down. Lots of things happened at the beginning of the show. Lots will certainly happen over the next hour and change. So be ready for it. Live Before Lock coming up next. Enjoy Greg. Enjoy Eric. Have some fun. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you later.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome to another NBA Live Before Lock, and we're running out of days to do these, Eric. There's only I think yesterday or something. It was like 3 weeks from yesterday. The NBA regular season ends, and then we're going to have playoff basketball, which it's going to be way different than the regular season. We're not going to have total goofballs to roster, but for now, it's kind of fun to roster the goofballs, even when sometimes they do stuff like break their ankles midway through games or just play absolute shitty basketball and get benched after 10 minutes. But we're about to be breaking down the slate here. So do us favors. You watch, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're sponsored by Sleeper. We'll be talking more about them later. Eric, how are you doing today?
Yesterday was the worst slate of the year. I don't really know what happened other than pain and sadness. I did everything you could possibly do wrong. I had people get hurt, not do anything. At least I didn't play Keon Ellis. I think that was probably the one good thing that I did. So I didn't play Keon Ellis, but I played a guy who is way better than the starter, Nick Claxton. Daron Sharp played 0 minutes because they just decided, you know what? Just take him out of the rotation. So there is no possible way that I will ever pick a backup center for Nuka the Night ever again. Just in the event that were to happen, they will have to start the basketball game or be almost certain to see the floor in every single way. But I did not have fun yesterday. I have been running hot in the betting circles, as well as producer Jacob knows. Things have been really, really good. Yesterday was a disaster. Oh, and I had Kentucky winning the entire tournament. So legitimately everything that could have gone wrong yesterday went wrong. How about for you?
It was a large field tournament. I got 50% of my entry fees back, which is kind of what happens when I have any top 1% lineup. So, not great, but it wasn't like 0% of them crashed. But yeah, overall, definitely not the best of nights. And I didn't have anything that was remotely close to live either on yesterday's slate. But Steve Buzzard, I don't know if you saw Steve won the $15 last night.
He's just unbelievable. The guy is unbelievable. Just printing. I absolutely. If you guys aren't jumping into Discord to do office hours with that guy, I always just lurk in the shadows. I kind of sit there and just take it all in and watch the conversations that happen. But you guys are getting so much great stuff over at OddsShopper that isn't just the tools. To have access to Steve Buzzard, if you guys aren't jumping in for those office hours, I really don't know what you're doing with your life.
Yeah, we talk about them when you sign up for any of the packages. Links below. If you guys want to sign up, you do get access to Discord, so you could ask us questions over the course of these shows or any other shows, or if you just want to ask us questions, post-lock or throughout the day or anything like that. But yeah, we also have other stuff that goes on in Discord, like Steve doing the office hours, where he takes people's questions in there and just talks about general DFS strategy, how to use the tools on the site or particular strategies he's implementing. Really anything you think of, you could go ask Steve anytime. And already we've got questions coming in for tonight's show. And the very first question we have in here that I want to open up with us here, Eric, it is from Sniffs1234. He says, how do we feel about a 3K Springer with the game more than likely being a blowout? Is Jaden Springer somebody that is making his way into your lineups?
0%.
So I hear what you're saying, Sniffs, in terms of, hey, the game could be a blowout, which there's a ton of them at this time of year, right? We see blowouts happen just about every single night. Here's part of the issue, though, and this is actually unlike yesterday, where I think we had almost every game at a double-digit spread. There's only 3 games with really big spreads today. We've got the Clippers favored by 14 over the Blazers, Celtics favored by 14 over the Pistons, then we've got OKC favored by 16.5 over the Toronto Raptors. Still a bunch of players on the injury report, more stuff to come out. But there's so much value at this point of the season as is that I don't think you have to go out of your way to find more value. That's where I'm at in terms of getting to these really, really deep tournament plays. It's unnecessary, in my opinion, at this time of year.
I'm right there with you. Here's the thing. You got to get everything else right. It is enticing knowing that he has shooting guard, small forward. It is enticing knowing he's the min. You figure that one out, you got a big piece covered, but need 20 plus, 25 plus. You're going to need a lot of things to break right. It's probably like an 85th, 90th percentile outcome for him to exceed 20. He's projected for 12. You really need to nail that game script. You need to have him go out and exceed the usage of, 60. He has a 17% usage on the season, but that's not in Boston primarily. So this is just such a spot where I know what you're looking at. I know you're going for it, but the value is going to be so much better here today. There's potential for even more of it in the late night hammer. I'm with Greg. For me, I just don't think that it's going to be something I invest in the very first game of the night.
Yeah, so not necessarily. And, maybe if we're talking about like a 3-game late game slate or something, then you could kind of be like, hey, here's a deep guy who's kind of got a path to success. But, we've got a decent amount of games on the slate. There's a bunch of players who are already out. And then we've got the injury report as of right now. We do have LeBron is questionable. Anthony Edwards is questionable. I tend to think both of them are going to play, but still worth mentioning they're on the injury report, especially because LeBron is a different injury on the injury report. I don't even know what this is, but they have him with a left ankle peroneal tendinopathy, whatever that is. He's questionable with that. Anthony Edwards, it's a finger injury. Again, he's fine. I'm very certain that he's going to play. Then we've got Ayton questionable. Rudy Gobert is questionable. Tobias Harris is questionable. Naz Reid is questionable. Scottie Pippen questionable. Jake LaRavia questionable. John Conchar questionable. Norman Powell questionable. Obi Toppin questionable. Terrence Mann questionable. So a lot of players that could get ruled out and open up additional value. Don't want Springer taking up a spot right off the bat to open up the slate. Let me make sure that there weren't any. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I don't matter.
Jacob, were any of these questions answered on the last show, the super chats? Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. So we've got a 1-2 left us a super chat. Well, Chris Williams said a shout out to Josh. And then 1-2 asked us, Carlisle buying into the Sean V hometown narrative. Yeah, rumor has it that Sean V and Rick Carlisle are texting each other regularly and they're planning out the rotations there. So very important to note that for future. And then we've got 7J2 Music says, will ownership be added to the showdown slates for tonight? How do you go about doing lineups without the ownership? Thanks, homies. Which game are you talking about? For which game? We have the ownership for the flagship ones, but we don't have the ownership for each individual showdown contest that exists. But also on top of that, if you run lineups through the contest generator, that it's also something that it projects ownership in there. So I would need a little bit more specifics on which one, but there are going to be ownership projections for the flagship showdown tonight. I'll go check to make sure that they're up. If not, then I'll ask them to be run. But then he asks, how do you go about building lineups for showdown without ownership? Yep, I just use the contest generator because that's going to project ownership for me. But anything else you would add about showdown strategy?
Nope.
All right, let's see what we have for our next question. It is from Devin Neiman. He says, yesterday was a great slate. All right, well, it was good for at least one person. Here's the thing. Every night, we know it's good for Steve Buzzard. It was good for Devin Neiman last night as well.
There you
Devin
go.
says, yesterday was a great slate. He turned $37.50 into $1,121. It's a pretty sick ROI.
Pretty good.
Pretty good ROI. Congrats, Devin. Love to see it.
Nicely done, dude.
Love to see it. Jerkwood in chat says, what is Steve Buzzard's number? 911. If you have an emergency, he'll help you out.
867-5309.
Yeah. Steve, yeah. I don't know. Is there something else that you are meaning by Steve Buzzard's number? Or you're just asking for his cell phone number? I don't even have Steve's cell phone number. Did Steve give you his cell phone number?
I do have his cell phone number. We've had Euros together on the great streets of downtown Denver. They were good times. A couple of drinks out there in old Miami. So I've been fortunate enough to +1 for my boy Rinpack a couple of times. A couple of years ago, 2 years ago it was now at this point in time, and gotten to spend some time with Steve. Absolutely love the guy. So congrats to my dude. Yeah,
there are not very many questions I get where I look at like, well, this is an odd one. Not exactly sure what it is that we're getting at here, but hey, somebody asking for Steve's cell phone number, which don't worry, Steve, not giving it out because you're giving it out to me. How am I going to give it out to anybody? Give it out to Eric, apparently. But hey.
Well, I mean, I got to meet him and hang out with him. Have you ever met Steve?
Yeah. I mean, I had a meeting with him yesterday. We talked to each other for a while.
In person.
No. But I'd have to leave my house for that. That's not happening.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, God forbid you would do that.
Yeah. No, I don't even know. I assume he lives in the United States of America. Beyond that, I don't know what country he's in.
It's the only reason that I know you didn't plant the bees in my air conditioner.
It's true. Well, I mean, it's very easy to hire other people to do these things.
Yeah, you could have paid a kid $15 to shovel your driveway and put bees in my air conditioner.
You could also text Steve and he'll take care of such things for you.
This is such a
That's why I pretend I don't have
ridiculous
his number.
and
So
forth.
it takes it's an alibi there, right?
Good. That's good. Yeah, I was gonna say, if you weren't there, you obviously didn't commit a crime. Just ask Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah. By the way, how weird is that story, the Shohei
It's the weirdest story that I can remember in sports in quite some time. Probably, I mean, obviously, one's a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad thing, but like there are very few stories that just catch me really by surprise in sports. I would say like the he one and this one, Aaron Hernandez caught me by surprise. Like who would have ever thought that was going to be something? I mean, this is like there's so many iterations of like what could have happened or what did happen with this. And I doubt we get ever like the actual truth of what it is, because it's going to be a lot of lawyers and he said, she said. And I mean, it is a wild story that's going to unfold.
I think that they should. So I have a feeling I know what happened here, but the cover up is so much worse than what the truth is.
Probably.
Where it's because now people are just like, he must be betting on his own games. I find that to be. I'm not going to. There's nothing as a 0% chance of happening, but I find it to be very unlikely. It's just the reward is so not worth what the risk is there. But what I think is probably most likely is he was betting on basketball, tennis, whatever the hell else he found interesting to bet on. And he was probably doing it through a bookie. And then somebody found out and he was just kind of like, hey, it's my guy here. But the thing that's really killed him is his PR team. They come up with a different story every single day. And then people are going to speculate when the story is so wildly different each day. The PR has been terrible. Terrible.
Well, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, this all happened when he was not even around. It's not like he had cameras in his face. And now you got opening day next Thursday. You have the Dodgers as massive World Series favorites. I mean, everything, the scrutiny is going to just go up, up, up here. I will say, Major League Baseball was looking to like incorporate Ohtani. Like he is the most talented player, two-way player that we've ever had. He won't be pitching this year. Obviously, he'll be DHing. It sounds like Dodgers might actually get him throwing on a throwing program where he might play the field at some point. But like, he is a historic talent, and they haven't marketed him. They've been looking for a marketing angle. Maybe we turn him into the villain or something. Like there might be something interesting to mine out of it. But obviously, probably the biggest story we have in baseball entering Thursday.
Yeah, it's a weird one. We'll see what ends up coming of it. We'll see. But was there any other super chats here? If not, I just finished running a sim. I want to check out some of the results of that. Shout out to Chris Williams, who gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. And then Brian Peel wants to know, Eric, who are your 3 favorite Prize Picks plays tonight?
Yeah, Prize Picks is epic today. I have a lot in play over there because you were able to stack up this Toronto game with some really, really low-hanging fruit. And let me see where the numbers are for Gary Trent and Agbaji and Grady Dick and all of those guys, because the fantasy scores are egregious. Yeah, still are. 18.5 fantasy score for Ochai Agbaji. Going to play 30 minutes barring... he's going to play 30 minutes no matter what. Grady Dick, 20 fantasy score. Bruce Brown, 27 fantasy score. This is FanDuel scoring that we're talking about here. And I was just cross-referencing our projections. We have Bruce Brown right around 32. We have Agbaji. Am I spelling his name wrong? What am I doing? There we go. Agbaji, I know it starts with an A, 22.5. So he's at 18.5. That's 4 fantasy score off for a guy who's going to play 30 plus minutes. And Grady Dick, we have at 24 basically. So those are ridiculous. I've been pairing those and rotating them around with other pieces from that exact game. 51 fantasy score for SGA. We've got Lugens Dort at 18. He's projected north of 21.5. I just like getting that portfolio of the game, not even like hoping it comes close. I just want them to hit their outcomes. Like this is a phenomenal opportunity to game stack and play on Prize Picks with just those fantasy scores over and over again.
And we just got some news here. We got Anthony Edwards is in as expected. Naz Reid also in. And then we've got Rudy Gobert, a game time decision. So that's what we have for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I do think Rudy Gobert should be back tonight, but we'll see. We'll find out more later as we go here. And Brian Peel, thank you for the super chat. For anybody else who plays Pick'em, you should consider signing up at Sleeper, who is the sponsor of our show today. And the reason I bring that up is because there's a couple things going for you. First, if you sign up with our link, you're going to get a deposit bonus of up to $500 that is certainly something to take advantage of. And then also, there's been all kinds of free squares over at Sleeper as of late, and today is no different. Free square they have for tonight, LeBron James over 0.5 points. All you need is a single point from LeBron James, and you're going to cash that free square over on Sleeper. So sign up using our link up to a $500 bonus on that first deposit, and LeBron more or less than 0.5 points. So go ahead and take advantage of that. Another super chat that we have here is from Tupelo Joe. He wants to know, can we get 2 value plays at each position on DraftKings?
Yes, you may.
Yes. It's a lot of value plays, but yeah, I'll tell you my 2 favorite value plays that I'm getting to at each position. All right. So starting at point guard, players who are point guard eligible.
What are we calling value?
We can make it be flexible. We'll just call it best points per dollar plays because, some positions we're not going to have cheap guys we love. But point guard, eligible players, Peyton Pritchard and Bruce Brown.
Those are the 2.
Shooting guard eligible players, that is going to be Ja Ramsey for me. And I mean, John Conchar as a placeholder. Because if there's a scenario where Conchar is one of the best points per dollar plays on the slate, he looks good as is, but he's also questionable to play. There's a lot of other players that are on the injury report for Memphis, which is no different than any other slate ever. But if we look at what we have for Memphis today, Scottie Pippen's questionable, Conchar's questionable, Laravia is questionable. The players who have already been ruled out, Luke Kennard, Lamar Stevens, Brandon Clark, Zaire Williams, Derrick Rose, Yuta Watanabe, Marcus Smart, Vince Williams is doubtful, Desmond Bane is also doubtful. Is there a scenario where Memphis doesn't even have 8 guys today?
Yep. And that's kind of what I was going to say, is that I think that, a point guard, Scottie Pippen Jr. probably makes sense. But Aaron Nesmith, 5,100, is somebody that I'm playing more of, just because there's going to be some type of late swap that we're going to have open to us. I'm not saying play Aaron Nesmith. I don't think he projects out all that well, but he's 5,100 at a price point where I'd want to turn him into other things as news breaks, as the entire slate is going on. Like, I can turn him into, whatever shows up from Memphis. I need $100 to get to Scottie Pippen. I need, some flexibility there. But as it stands right now, Conchar is probably the number 2. His name, number 2. But Ramsey and Conchar are probably there. But I'm getting to a ton of Aaron Nesmith that I plan on swapping off of.
Yeah, and the Conchar one is... He looks good now if he's in. If he plays, there's no scenario where I don't get to John Conchar.
Correct.
But there's also a scenario where he looks way better than he does now, or potentially gets ruled out. But if all 3 of these guys get ruled out, Pippen, Conchar, Laravia, somebody's going to have to be active in just a DNP in that scenario, because the only guys they would have active, I believe, are Triple J, Gigi Jackson, Santi Aldama, Dijon Giroux, Jordan Goodwin, Trey Jameson, and then, so they would have exactly 8. And now they
would have 8 on the number.
Mauzina Pereira, who sounds like a UFC fighter. So they would have 8 active guys if none of Pippen, Conchar, Laravia are active. But I mean, this is the way of the Memphis Grizzlies these days. Anyway, John Conchar, one of my favorite value plays as of now.
I will say one thing about the Memphis thing as well. If they don't start, there is a chance that you get the DMP of any of these questionable guys. So that was one thing that I was going to have on high alert of, where there isn't going to be a scenario where Scottie Pippen comes off the bench or Jake LaRavia comes off the bench where I don't have interest in them. I guess the one exception might be I still get to a little John Conchar, but I will be paying very close attention to that news. That's just going to be playing with fire a little bit.
Small forward, and I mean, small forward's a bunch of guys that we have already talked about, like Bruce Brown is small forward eligibility, as does John Conchar. I guess the guy I'd go with next there is Gigi Jackson in a matchup against the Spurs, an up pace spot. We're also going to have Memphis shorthanded, as they always are. So he is $6,200, but I do think it was one of the better points per dollar plays at the position. But Bruce Brown and John Conchar are the top small forward point per dollar plays.
Agbaji for me as well. 4,100. I'm getting quite a bit of him.
Power forward, that is Jordan Nwora, and I'll go Gigi Jackson again.
Yeah, it's Nwora and Agbaji for me for value.
And then at center, I'll go
Jonte Porter.
Jonte Porter again. I know people are going to be upset that we bring up Jonte, but like, what are we going to do the other day? He plays 2 minutes and then he gets sick and doesn't finish. He wasn't on the injury report. There was no kind of potential. There was no word that could potentially happen. I do wonder if that could lower the ownership here of Jonte Porter, who people talking about blowouts. These are the kinds of guys that I want to roster in blowouts. The players who already project well on a points per dollar basis. And if the game plays out, normally look good, but also would potentially get garbage time. Those are the kind of guys I'm more interested this time of season. And Jonte Porter definitely falls into that category. If the game's competitive, Porter plays the backup center minutes, and he's shown to be a good points per minute fantasy producer this year. By the way, I think Jonte Porter overall, pretty solid, well-rounded NBA player. A lot of tools. He can pass the ball. He can handle the ball. He could shoot a little bit. But anyway, Jonte Porter. I don't have another cheap center that I really like all that much, though.
If you had to go to somebody else, Trace Jackson Davis, mainly as a placeholder. I'm going to roster a lot of him as a placeholder because there is one guy to rule them all and one guy to find them on this slate. And you're going to want center and flex eligibility. His name's Duop Reith. You need to have a Duop Reith plan. Duop Reith is $3,500. And if you don't have Ayton on a floor today, you need Duop Reith. He will be game script independent. He will play 26 plus minutes. I know they did some finagling earlier in the season. There were some weird times. I remember there was the Knicks game where he was mega chalk and it was a whole thing. I don't really care. Duop Reith, I will get to every single possible share I can. So just getting to Trace Jackson Davis and then, talking about Aaron Nesmith, like I'm going to be swapping a lot come, that 10 p.m. window of games. I think that just getting to Trace Jackson Davis as a placeholder makes sense.
Who are the players that you like boosting then to give yourself more flexibility to make some of those swaps for the 10 p.m. games? Because like you said, we do have a pretty strong chance that Duop Reith could end up being the best value play on the slate.
Yeah, so a couple of them. Aaron Nesmith was the one guy I brought up. I want that shooting guard small forward eligibility. That makes it 5 positions that I can swap him amongst my lineups. He's in that mid 5K range, and it would appear that, nothing's all that crazy popular outside of Anthony Davis and Scoot Henderson in the entire late night window. But think about how much you would want to get to from the Portland side. I don't completely hate the idea of a little bit of Chris Murray at 3,800. I don't hate Scoot Henderson, 5,400. He's going to be a little bit more popular there. But Duop Reith is the prize jewel of the entire evening window. So I'm willing to find a lot of those two situation things. So Nesmith plus Trace Jackson Davis gives me the swap ability to get to those 6K guys, whether it's Miles Turner, Jonathan Kuminga, Simons at 7,500 would look exponentially better without Ayton on the floor. A lot of those type of guys I would get to just by having those two combinations of guys, like mid 5K guys I'm looking at boosting.
Yeah, and the player I currently have the most of from the late set of games is Anthony Davis, and I'm playing a bunch of AD, and there's a couple of reasons to like Davis. We do have LeBron officially listed as questionable on the injury report, and maybe it matters that it is a different injury than what he's normally listed with. Potentially that makes him a little bit more live to end up sitting. But even if LeBron plays, I would still want to get to Anthony Davis. Going up against the 76ers team where they just have no front court defense with Joel Embiid out, it's a really, really good matchup for Anthony Davis. So AD, already like him, and then having a bunch of exposure to him in the final game of the slate, it's going to give me extra flexibility. So AD is my overall favorite guy to boost from the late set of games. Next question here. We've got a super chat from Jacob Dunn. Jacob wants to know, Wemby plus 550 for 8 stocks or better versus Memphis. Is that good value?
It's a lot of stocks. So he is insane. Let me take a look at my stuff here. Hang on. Wemby baseline 3.5 blocks per game.
I'm going to say
it's so weird to look at 5. I'm going to say no. His average is 4.8 on a 29 minute per average. You're not the big problem with any of the Wembanyama stuff is he just has to overperform in 32 minutes. You're never, ever getting a minute ceiling out of him. The only way you get a minute ceiling is by the entire game getting a minute ceiling and getting overtime. I think it makes it really hard to bet Wembanyama props unless you're taking unders. I don't think I've taken an over on Wemby in months, and I've been on some unders. I know Odd Shoppers had some unders really popping here of late as well on Wemby on a couple of stars, and That is going to be your profitable way of betting Wemby right now. Do I think it's impossible? Absolutely not. The guy's a freak, but very, very unlikely wouldn't call that good value.
This is going to seem like a low number, but it isn't. So plus 550, the implied odds are 15.4%. It's just not all that likely to me that like 1 out of 7 times he gets 8 or more blocks.
Let me go to StatMuse and just ask how many times he's had 8 or more blocks in a game this season. How many times?
No, it's steals plus blocks.
Oh. Yama.
Just for reference. Steals plus blocks.
Blocks and steals in a game this season. We'll find out.
I don't know, maybe 5, 6 or something like that. But I don't have the best way to project it, Jacob, but that's a big number, and plus 550 are not very long odds.
I mean, he's hit 7 a bunch. I'm looking through the box score right now just to give you an idea of like how improbable it is. 1, 2, 3. I'm just counting them. 4, 5. 5 times he's done it all season long. It's not very good.
It's not the end all be all. It's better than anything that
61 games though that he's played. Yeah, 61 games to do it 5 times. That kind of lines up with the fact that the implied odds, the probabilities, just based on what we've seen, obviously, is that a perfect way to do it? No. But the thing is that of any player in the NBA, he has like the most consistent minutes of any star, period, end of story. There's just never a right tail on the minutes. There's really no left tail either at this point in time. He's playing between 28 and 32 minutes every single game from here until eternity.
You know what's the most impressive thing? I mean, there's a lot of impressive parts about Wemby. He very rarely gets into foul trouble for the amount of defensive stats that he accumulates, which is pretty crazy. He's really good at using his length without fouling. Has he fouled out in a single game this year?
I will tell you that here now, too. Do I see a 6 in his power forward side?
So he has fouled out once this year, and he's also only had 5 personal fouls a few times. So the point being that I'm trying to make here is that you talked about how consistent Wemby's minutes are, and one of the reasons the minutes are so consistent is he doesn't get in foul trouble like other big men do.
Yeah, because his arms just go around the person. He's not at eye level with anybody. It's like he has like Inspector Gadget arms. That's a superpower.
Yeah, he does. He will occasionally grab offensive rebounds kind of by going over the back of players. The reason it doesn't get called a foul, though, is he could reach over people and just kind of pick the basketball like he's picking up a grape out of a basket or something. And he doesn't have to make contact with anybody because he's so much longer than everybody else. So anyway, very rarely gets into foul trouble. And Eric's point, totally agree with. We're getting, 30, 31, 32 minutes at a Wemby basically every single game. And the only thing that changed it, potentially blowout, overtime, foul trouble hasn't been a thing for him. So anyway, no, that would be a no bet for me, Jacob, on the Wemby 8+ stocks. RADM, if we had to bet, would we say Gobert plays tonight or not? By the way, I would love for this to be a betting market that sportsbooks start adding. If we could bet on whether questionable players would play or not, that would be pretty fun, would it not?
Yeah, until insider trading became a thing and somebody went to jail. Oh my fucking God. Freeman Liberty is starting.
All right. Well, there we go. The first weird fucking piece of news of the night. Starting lineup for the Toronto Raptors. Freeman Liberty, Brown Dick, Agbaji, Olynyk. Eric, thoughts?
Liberty Bibberty.
Yeah, we've got what is the price point on Freeman Liberty? So on FanDuel, he's $3,700. Yes, please. On DraftKings, I had him in some lineups, about to get him into a bunch of lineups, and he is.
They just don't want to start Nwora, do they? They never, ever want to start him.
Yeah, $3,500 for him at point guard and shooting guard eligibility. And people are telling us about we're getting all kinds of weird starting lineups right now. So first things first, we'll do these one at a time. If I just read off all the starting lineups, it's going to kind of be all over the place. So we'll do one starting lineup comes at a time. I saw the Celtics starting lineup as well. We'll hit on that next. Yeah. But first, as far as this Raptor starting lineup goes, Freeman Liberty, add him to the list of really strong value options. One of the players I'm going to get the most exposure to now. And to Eric's point about Jordan Nwora, he is going to look still good, but a little bit worse than he did.
Yeah, I mean, we had Ramsey, I think, as our presumed starter for tonight. I didn't know what to make of it. We were going to be able to adjust. It was the first game of the night. It didn't really matter all that much. Javon Freeman Liberty, your best value play on the board right now.
Yep. Really strong option there. Anything else you want to add about that Toronto Raptors starting lineup?
Nope. Let's go to Tillman.
Okay. So the Boston Celtics starting lineup. And by the way, it's a good thing we got this Celtics lineup now, because we had a question about exotic plays for FanDuel, and I was going to bring up Luke Cornett. But now that we've got this Celtics starting lineup, which is Pritchard, White, Brown, Tillman, Porzingis, we've got Xavier Tillman in the what a weird starting lineup. Xavier Tillman alongside Kristaps Porzingis. What is the price point on Tillman now?
I mean, Tosan, the guy from wherever, the whole thing is that, like, he's a pretty good rebounder, I suppose, or that was like his MO back in college, from what everybody wants to tell me. I guess they're just going double big here. I thought they were going to start Luke Cornett. I think you thought they were going to start Luke Cornett. We also got the official Peyton Pritchard start. So, like, that's been in doubt. My guess is this probably limits Sam Hauser's minutes to some extent. He's probably still a little sore on the ankle. They don't want him going full blast. So cool. We will be just fine with that. I don't want to really play Sam Hauser now off the bench, and I don't want to play any Luke Cornett off the bench at these price points. But Xavier Tillman's 3,400, and even if he just gets like 8 minutes, which is kind of what we had as like the first rotation, third quarter rotation. I mean, we didn't have it as like the starting rotation of it, but like there's a definite minutes upside for 22, 24. He's 3,400. He's going to look really good too.
The only bummer of Tillman is that he's only center eligible on both DraftKings and FanDuel, but still, as a starter, $4,100 on FanDuel, $3,400 on DraftKings. He's a strong option on both sides. So we just had two good options that opened up because of these starting lineups. But you mentioned Sam Hauser. His minutes definitely look a little bit worse coming off the bench. And then also Luke Cornett. He's somebody else who's going to be coming off the bench. It definitely caps his minutes ceiling a little bit. Between Cornett and Hauser, are any of them priorities for you at all? Are they fades? Are there players that might end up in like a lineup or two? Where do you envision these guys playing out for you in your lineups?
You said Hauser. I don't think you meant to say Hauser. Like, I don't have a ton of interest in a 5K Hauser off the bench. If he goes out and makes every single shot that he looks at, so be it. I'm not going to be there for it. I think the minutes, you have to take it from 28.5. You've got to drop him to the 24. 24 is probably where I'm comfortable putting him. I'm kind of playing with the 240 minutes right now. I got a little slider thing I'm going across with. Peyton Pritchard, just awesome, full steam ahead. We already had him for 31.5 minutes. I think there's minutes upside even on that at this point in time. He's been playing really, really good. Quack, quack, go Ducks. Luke Cornett, zero desire to play any Luke Cornett. It is really going to be Jaylen Brown show here now too. I mean, that's the other thing, is that you take Luke Cornett, who's a capable shooter here, had really low usage at 10.4%, but like Tillman going up to 15%, I don't know. It feels kind of tick for tat a little bit. Luke Cornett been in the rotation a lot with like Tatum and doing other stuff. Tillman, 3,400, 0.9 fantasy point per minute producer. Again, he's at that exact kind of spot we're looking at for Duop Reef, but like we have this news now. I'm just very interested to see where the field gets on some of these guys. I definitely look at Liberty Bibberty as kind of the main guy that we just got. I think he's the guy that's unavoidable with the multi-positional eligibility. But Tillman, I just kind of want to see how much the field gets to. I definitely want to get to some, but like if he just plays the first 6-8 minutes of each quarter of the first and third quarter, starts the second half, it's not great. I'd rather get to Duop Reef if we knew that we were going to have what's-his-face out, if we were going to have Ayton out. But considering we're still sitting on that news, this is the value that's in front of you.
And I did mean to ask you about Hauser because a bunch of people bring you up in chat, both in playback and YouTube. So wanted to make sure that we talked on it just so people.
Yeah, I put him in for 24 minutes and I'm not getting to him.
To Fibluminous, who wants to know why we aren't talking about Troy Brown, because we didn't get to the Pistons starting lineup yet. We just got the Pistons lineup as well. Pistons starting lineup. And the reason I'm going one at a time, it just gets really disorganized if I just start, here are all the lineups and just be like thoughts on everything. So just trying to make it a little bit more, like strategic in terms of talking each of these lineups in the order they came out. But
you're doing fantastic, Greg.
Cunningham, Ivy, Troy Brown Jr. out of nowhere, our guy Evie Boyman, and then Duran, of course, at center per usual. So the one thing that's most different here is going to be Troy Brown Jr. moving into the starting lineup. What can we potentially expect out of Troy Brown Jr.'s minutes? He's extremely cheap. The flat min on DraftKings with 3K.
Yeah, we're going to get to him for sure. I mean, this is a guy that we already had him for 22 minutes. You got to move that slider up. He is out there to do one thing and one thing only, and that is chuck corner threes. He played for my Timberwolves at the start of this season. We've seen him in Washington. If you watch him play, he is out there to human heat check it a little bit. I will say the one interesting guy that I've had on my radar all day that I don't know what this does for his minutes, but like Evie Boyman, we saw 22 minutes out of Chimezie Metu. Right out of the gate. I had interest in Chimezie Metu at 3,700 as like a guy where, hey, maybe they just split minutes with Evie Boyman. Like, I think that was like something that was on the table. And Metu is the much better fantasy producer between the two. I'm a little bit unsure. Like, Troy Brown feels like the sure thing at 3K as far as like, hey, he's getting the first crack at it. He's out there to shoot, but I mean, I can guarantee you I'm going to plug it in the Sims here once everything updates, and we're just going to get to a lot of him. But I will say, I think this makes it a little bit more interesting for what I was at least thinking about. If Evan Fournier, you kind of know who Evan Fournier is. There's really no point. Marcus Sasser, they're still developing him, but it would appear that if he's not going to start, he's going to play low 20s minutes, and there's not really a whole lot of minutes upside for it. I think Chimezie Metu is somebody that I'm still going to land on a little bit. I felt like he was kind of the underrepresented piece of this game where like 22 minutes, we had him in for 20. I think there's a chance that, if Troy Brown ends up failing to some capacity or, Evie Boyman, who played the 30 there's a chance Metu steps in for a little bit larger role than what we're anticipating.
Next question that we have coming in here, a handful of super chats came in, RADM. We never actually answered this one, I don't think. But if we had to bet if Gobert plays or not, I would say he does play.
I think Gobert plays today. But again, I've been wrong. I thought Gobert was going to play, 12 weeks ago, whatever it was. I mean, it's been like back-to-back games. Thought he was going to play in Utah. Thought he was going to play against Joker. Minnesota really fought in that game. It was a really fun game to watch as a Timberwolves fan. But if you told me I would say it's like 75-25 that he plays, which... Again, I'll have enough late exposure, talked about kind of the process of what I'm going to do, and I'll be able to swap onto that pretty easily at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Question here from Dust. One first. BD asked, one player you have to have, value and a star for DK. Value, Peyton Pritchard, star, Anthony Davis for me.
Yeah, Peyton Pritchard and Liberty Bibberty, and then star, Anthony Davis. We're in the same boat.
Dustin Stringer, exotic play of the day for FanDuel, and he wants the exotic theme played. Unfortunately, Jordan is out today, so we don't have the exotic theme to play for you. Or maybe we do. Do we? Oh, play it up. Hit it up. Let's see it run. Man, paid for that. Look at the difference. Smarter than cash. This man, he went to work today. Earned money just so he could pay for the exotic play of the night animation to play on screen. Not going to be upset about this.
It's the easiest. It's going to be the OG exotic.
I can't wait until we add Chet raising the roof. This is going to be nothing but Chet highlights in a couple of years.
So I said, dude, Chet was my boy the other night. I got you a little 70 burger on Chet. How'd that feel? 65 burger. Those were good times.
Came in top 10 single entries that night. So exotic play of the night for FanDuel, though, Eric. Eric, who's the exotic that you're liking for FanDuel? I think there's a very easy answer for
who's the exotic. I just hate you all. 4,900, Peyton Pritchard, the OG exotic. Me and my Tiger, we come in. Let's go.
Yeah, so Peyton Pritchard, one that is more FanDuel oriented than DraftKings, but Kristaps Porzingis, particularly because of the defensive stat bonus he gets there. Peyton Pritchard, that is my answer for FanDuel, but shout out to Kristaps Porzingis as well. He's somebody else who fits the bill for the night. Nikki Tarantino wants to know how many value players are okay when building lineups on DK. This is a very heavy stars and scrub slate.
Yep, I have lots of scrubby dub in a tub,
I mean, I'm
whatever the hell.
Some of the lineups, and I'm gonna have to redo them shortly here, but yeah, I'm gonna have lineups with like 4 value players, 5 value players, and a lot of them.
Yeah, this is going to be something.
Malcolm Revamp wants us to show the updated ownership for DraftKings. So Jacob could throw that up when we get it, but I don't think we have it yet. It's going to be...
I have 100% Liberty Bibberty. Is this correct? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing with my life? Playing 100% of Liberty Bibberty?
That's what happens this time of season. That's what happens.
Great.
Riley Cooper, 14. SGA or AD, last man in, and thanks. So if this is honestly, whether it's last man in, first man in, whatever you want to call it, it's AD over SGA for me.
I love both. SGA's 51 fantasy score over on Prize Picks today. Sleeper, I think he had a pretty decent PRA too. I think it was a point lower over on Sleeper than what it was on the other pick'em sites today. So for the people playing the pick'em, we've got him for 54.5, Mr. SGA. Obviously, that came down I think a point as a result of another dude who, just Gary Trent being out. That definitely moved the line and should move the line. I mean, they're 17.5 point favorites at this point in time. Absurd stuff.
Let's see if there are any other super chats. There are not. So let's go into the Discord. If you guys haven't done yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want access to our Discord channel, sign for any package that we have at Stochastic using the links we have below. You want the lineup generator package, less than $15. It's going to build lineups for you. It's also got player projections and ownership projections in there. And on top of it all, so many people have had success as of late. We got our new Hall of Fame segment we do every week. We had 30 people that use either the lineup generator or the sim sent messages to us on Twitter and said, hey, I want to be in the Hall of Fame. Look at this tournament I won using your guys' tools and data. So sign up for any of those packages using the link that we have below. But let's start us off here by getting to our next question in Discord. And this one is coming to us from My Amada. Says, who is the Dayron DNP of the night?
Jesus.
Ideally, I'm not rostering anybody who's a DNP today. So I'm going to say nobody.
Nobody. Stop it.
Another part of this too. If I thought there was somebody who wasn't going to play, there's no chance I'm going to have him in my lineup. It's not like I'm playing a guy be like, he's not going to play, but maybe he will.
Yeah, I mean, come on. That's so dumb too. And I was just putting the numbers. I put them side by side over on Twitter. Dayron Sharp is an 80th percentile offensive player, 76th percentile defensive player, has a plus 1.3 EPM, 82nd percentile player. He has a 61% true shooting percentage. He is somebody who can shoot threes, even though he doesn't shoot a ton of them, 33.3% on the season, and the best offensive rebound rate in the entire Eastern Conference. And yet, no minutes, 0 minutes yesterday. I can't even.
See what the next question we have in here is. It is from Mr. Cool Cam. Wants to know favorite players at each position on FanDuel for a GPP. Yeah, so I've got FanDuel lineups that are rerunning right now.
Wemby. I love Wemby on FanDuel. I'm playing both today too.
All right. So for FanDuel purposes, good timing because I just have this finished. Yep. At point guard for me, that is Javon Freeman Liberty.
Liberty Bibberty.
Shooting guard for me, that is Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown.
Small forward,
Bruce Brown by
that is Bruce Brown.
By a lot.
Power forward, Wemby.
Wemby.
Center, that is Triple J for me.
Porzingis for me.
There we go. So, Mr. Cool Cam, hope that helps you build out your lineups tonight. Hey, I'm Drew wants to know, who are the DK cash game locks for tonight? Yes, so the locks for cash game. Boy, this is going to get ugly. Stars and scrubs really heavy. So I think you go SGA and AD on the high end and then just jam in the really well-projected value plays that are also going to be popular. It's like Javon Freeman Liberty, want to play him in cash game. Peyton Pritchard, play him in cash. Probably still could fit Jaylen Brown in there as well. Who are the other must plays for cash, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, for DK?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Liberty Bibberty, you're 100% playing in cash. There's not even a question about it. Peyton Pritchard, you're 100% playing in cash. There's not even a thought about it. Probably going to be playing Bruce Brown, probably looking at Anthony Davis, John Conchar. I mean, the Memphis thing is still so fascinating to me. So I'm going to still be thinking about that here throughout the night until that game locks. I just want to be seeing how many guys they have active. I want to have swappability. That's who I really plan to use Neesmith to get to. Obviously, that's a 2 hour later game, but I'm just saying that I wouldn't want to get in a situation where, as good as some of the value is here from Toronto, from Boston, from Detroit, we're looking at some pieces there. Going to find myself onto something from Memphis, I can tell you.
See what the next question is. Daniel Buffington also just left us a super chat to want to know must plays in cash games. So we got Same question came in twice in a row, but yeah, Daniel, same answer that we just gave applies to you as well. Then Jorge Giacomi saying, playing only 20 lineups, would you lock anybody? And then thoughts on AD or Wemby. I prefer AD to Wemby, and then 20 lineups if you're locking anybody. The player that I'd say would most likely show up in 20 out of 20 lineups for me would be Freeman Liberty.
Yep, that's exactly who apparently I am locking. So good times. We'll see as I finish the final run here. I'm going to let it all go, and yeah, we'll just see where it comes out in the wash. But yeah, Freeman Liberty would be the guy. What was the other part of the question? Let me find where he said that. AD or Wemby? AD. Yeah, AD.
Next question is from Saif Din, and our guy Saif wants to know thoughts on Tyrese Halliburton tonight. Is Halliburton somebody you're getting to?
I've been staring at that game. I thought I would find something appealing there. Steph Curry's sub 9K, and like I think he's 8,600 today. It's just so hard. It's so diluted. I mean, everything is not awesome there in that game. Thought I would get to something. Thought Halliburton 9K would make some sense. I think he's all right as like a tournament play, but he doesn't look any better or worse than other guys that exist there. I mean, for me, it's probably going to be no.
So, I mean, we've talked about Halliburton's health a ton recently. The other thing, too, is there's, to me, just better pay-up options that are not all that difficult to get to. I'm sure I'll end up with like 5% of Halliburton or something, but for a lot of you guys who are watching and play, 1, 2, 3 lineups, I wouldn't have Halliburton in any of them.
There you go.
Super chat from Unique Autos 412. Okay. No super chat. Well, he left a super chat, but no question. Let me go into the chat and see if he typed anything. Here it is. He wants to know Curry and Zion or Wemby and LeVert tonight, Eric.
The second one.
Those aren't my favorite combinations, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't like either of them, which is why my brain is trying to think. Zion. Am I going to get to Zion at this point at 8,800? I don't think I am, but would I be all that shocked if I did? No. I guess it just depends how much Troy Brown I end up getting to when we finalize this thing.
Yeah, I've got my final set of lineups running right now.
Oh, well, good for you.
Sorry, what was that?
I said good for you.
Yeah, good for me. Very good for me. Next question that we have in here from Discord. It is from Miami High Life. Wants to know, how are we doing with tonight's late injuries? Boosting anyone's ROI? Are we downgrading any of the Toronto guys? Not downgrading any of the Toronto guys. Boosting AD. He's my favorite pay-up option from the late games. And that, to me, is just the easiest way to manipulate some of our lineups later. When we get, maybe more Memphis news that comes out later, that'll be something we swap to. But yeah, AD, somebody also I already like getting to. He's my favorite overall pay-up option on the slate. So I'm ROI boosting Anthony Davis.
Don't mind that.
And then, same thing. Jerkwood said any ROI boost after running the Sims for the $4 150 max, Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis.
Is there anybody that you're getting to that you maybe don't want to get to that you would downgrade exposure to from the early games to give yourself more flexibility?
I don't know yet. I will find out here. I will find. Jalen Duren ruled out. What?
Oh,
holy shit. Okay. James Wiseman, 100%. 100% James Wiseman. Don't know what the lineup is. It's going to be James Wiseman. Just jam 100% James Wiseman. Go.
Oh my God. What is the price?
Oh my God. Also, I need to go to pick 6 and I need to update that because I'm going to just jam rebound props from the. Of course, he's the only rebound prop.
Wiseman's 4,200.
100%. I'm playing 100%.
And he's not starting.
Yeah, he is. He has to be starting.
Oh,
James
no,
Wiseman?
We just got the lineup. I didn't. You know what happened? His name got cut off because Evie Boyman's name is so long. Cunningham, Ivy, Brown Jr., Evie Boyman, Wiseman.
There's no way that he wasn't going to get the start. You are looking at James Wiseman. Chimezi Metu, my boy. He's all grown up. I'm going to definitely get to some more Chimezi Metu now, too. I had like 4% or something in that last run. I'm going to get to a little bit.
Boy, this is...
Nuke of the night, James Wiseman.
By the way, I don't want 100% James Wiseman. I want to play him. I don't want 100%.
I do.
Not quite 100%. By the way, Jerkwood, also any ROI boost after running the Sims? Yeah, try to get yourself to more James Wiseman now.
James Wiseman is a fantasy point per minute producer who could have unlimited run. He's terrible. He's absolutely horrendous at the game of basketball, but I'm going to put him at 30 minutes right now, and I just guarantee I'm going to get to him at 100%.
All right. I mean, he's definitely a very strong option. I'm just saying I might not have 100%.
Well, yeah, because he sucks. And also Duop Reith exists, and Anthony Davis exists, and there's other things that you have to throw out there. I will say I have a feeling that I'm going to get a ton of Anthony Davis at the power forward spot now, and Victor Wembanyama probably just falls by the wayside. So congrats, Wemby, on his 8+ blocks to win that bet at plus 550 for the one guy, and the infinity percent of everything here. James Wiseman, where are you, bro?
Ben P, how do we get to Wiseman in the Sims? Give it a couple of minutes to update. As soon as the projections update, he'll start showing up in lineups.
Nope, I'm going to do it now. I got to do it
Stokes wants to know, with the value tonight, who's the best pay-up option to get to on DK? Anthony Davis.
Yep.
The real Gordon, is Cason Wallace a better option than Liberty? No.
Nope.
Not in my opinion. Next question here is from IC50. How many players from the first two games are we averaging per lineup? I don't have a great way to tell you how many players I'm averaging per lineup from the first two games, but the first two games, Boston, Detroit, Toronto, OKC, it's going to be a lot of players from those games. A lot of them.
Yep. This is just wild what I'm doing now.
Be More Irish wants to know, and also we got the super chat from Ace of Spade as well, wants to know our favorite options for DK tiers. Yes, so I will answer that right now because we got that super chat from Ace of Spade. My favorite options in tiers, tier 1 for me is Wemby. Actually, no, it's good. AD for the extra flexibility in case LeBron's out. So AD in tier 1, Edwards in tier 2, Jaylen Brown in tier 3, Jaren Jackson Jr. in tier 4, Kristaps Porzingis in tier 5, Chet Holmgren in tier 6. So Eric, you still keeping yourself committed to 100% of...
No, but I got 65% of my first run, and I'm going to do it one more time. Not committed to the bit. I'm just saying as fast as I can here. This is just freaking wild, friends.
Is there anybody else that you are really liking from the Detroit Pistons now?
Troy Brown. I still have like 28% Troy Brown. Yeah. I would rather get away from Troy Brown than any of the other cheap value. Actually, I mean, the Xavier Tillman thing is just so much less appealing now because I'm just going to get to so much Wiseman. And we're going to find out right now what I get to.
All right. We've got a question from Einstein. Is Paul Reed somebody that we should be getting exposure to? That's a no for me.
A no for me, dog. Yep. Going to get 100% James Wiseman. Good times. Good luck. Good luck to me.
All right. Let's see. Wiseman for me. Well, I'm just trying to really aggressively get to him right now, but let's see. I don't know about 100%. I'll know in a second here. Clyde wants to know Dick or Nesmith tonight. I mean, Dick between the two, but neither of those are super high priorities for this particular slate.
Dick between the two. Sorry.
All right. Just uploaded my lineups. I'm going to redo this afterwards, but I have 94% of James Wiseman, Eric.
I have 98%, so you win. Or I win. Sorry, I win. And 94% Liberty Liberty.
I don't know what it is you've won other than just playing a lot of James Wiseman, which could be good or bad depending how things end up going on.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
I'm going to have to rerun stuff as soon as we get post lock here. This is just a preliminary, just trying to get Wiseman in there, and then anything else that I would want to maybe be getting to from Detroit, but I mean, this was not like super well combed over by me. This was just upload lineups and try to get stuff I want to really quick. I got to 22% of Troy Brown, by the way.
How much did okay, so I got more Troy Brown than you did. 34% was my final number. Got 28% of SGA. I think he's just a guy that you should get more of now in this early game, just because you have the money to spend. So getting to SGA, getting to Anthony Davis, they're your highest raw points guys. I think just getting up to the top for them made a lot of sense too.
All right, let's see if there was any other final questions that came into Discord here. I think we got all of these. Let me double check and make sure there weren't any existing super chats, but I believe we've answered all of those as well. So we're about to head on over to the playback side of things. If you guys haven't done yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. But Eric, any final thoughts before we turn on over to the watch along portion?
Only got 4% of Chimezie Metu, but you know what? That's better than 0%. We're just going to be watching this game like crazy now, man. 98%. I have one lineup without James Wiseman tonight. Javon Freeman, Liberty, 94%. Peyton Pritchard, 62%. And then G.G. Jackson. He's a guy that I just want to get a ton of tonight as well. I think regardless of what else happens, he's healthy at the moment, and can't say that about much else. So him, Jaren Jackson Jr., John Conchar, if he plays at 4,600, going to be cheering for Memphis pretty hard too.
By the way, my brackets, people are saying Auburn lost to Yale. My brackets could just not be more dead. I only built one bracket, but it is going wayward.
Kentucky, Auburn, I might as well just... Here's the thing. If Iowa State makes it to Glendale, I get to go to that on a Saturday, and none of this matters. I'll be ecstatic.
All right, so I'm going to be heading on over to playback. I'll see you guys over there. Once again, if you haven't done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hop into playback. Jacob, if you wouldn't mind putting the link into YouTube a few times, I'll jam it in there as well, just so people have got the link in there. See you guys over on playback. Peace out.